Right around the time when I'll be sitting
Welcome to the October 18th meeting of the Rotary Club of South Jacksonville. It's a great day to be a member of Rotary. We ask that you silence your phone and conversations. If you're attending on Zoom, we welcome you also and ask that you mute yourself. My thanks to Bill Langley for welcoming our guests today. I'd like to invite Tari Boyer up to lead our pledge and prayer. Tari.
I don't think I'd read the schedule, so I wasn't necessarily prepared for this, but let's start off by saying the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, our Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this club. Thank you for all of our many blessings. Please bless this food and please watch over our fighting men and women. Pray in your ever precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I told Tari he'd be fine. He's a good Methodist. It's a good Methodist prayer. I'd like to call upon Lisa Marie Winslow to introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians. Lisa Marie.
One day I've got to fill in. We've got a list. All right, so starting with Mr. Langley, Bill Langley has a guest with him, Mr. Jason Diaz.
I'm actually going to make the introduction.
Okay, Mr. John Pope has the.
Cole Shedd, new up and comer at Morgan Stanley. He's been here now for a couple meetings, I believe. Interested, and the word is that paperwork has been in the works. So new member right around the corner.
Thank you.
Already hijacked my list. So that's okay. Bill Langley has a guest here, Jason Diaz.
Also have another guy, Jason Diaz. He's a commercial real estate, Penn State alumni. So he works mainly, I guess, from Fernandina area down to St. Augustine area. So welcome, Jason.
And I have two returning guests here with me. I'd like to introduce in the back of the room, Lisa Kennedy and Bernie Kennedy. They come to us from Seattle, and we are really happy to have them back. No, not even close. Keep going, Mike. Little thing I would like to share with the club. If you didn't know that actually Lisa and Bernie met at a Rotary Club, and their entire Rotary Club was at their wedding 15 years ago. So Guess what we have in plan for us? Who knows? We have another, Bill J. Cox has two guests with him, Bill, Nate, and Matthew. Would you like to introduce them?
I'd like to introduce my partner, Nate LeBar, the principal at Southjax-WestjaxRotaryClubs. And then we do houses and hospitals mostly, and Matthew's the man in charge of director of healthcare at Southjax-WestjaxRotaryClubs.
And then Odette Stroyce has had actually the entire C-suite at HCA with us today. So Odette, I will let you do the honors of introducing our esteemed guests.
Fantastic. I have to stand up. Kevin McHugh is our CFO at HCA Florida Memorial Hospital. The same hospital we have. Eleanor Lynch, who's our Senior Vice President of Operations. And Tammy Rasnick is our Chief Operating Officer.
All right, Maestro, it's your turn. Hit it.
Welcome you today. So glad you came along, glad you came our way. Our hand of fellowship is yours, sunshine or in rain. We here in Rotary say welcome, come again.
All right, I'm going to take the privilege of reporting on family of Rotary. Today, I'd like to recognize Steve Madden, whose birthday is tomorrow. Randy Gordon for 19 years of service on October 21st. And then Leslie, just a final reminder, you have an anniversary coming up this week. So I'm not going to tell you what day, but anyway, congratulations to all of you. Also, I'd like to give you an update on Harlan Boss. So many of y'all may not know, Harlan had his gallbladder out yesterday morning. I challenged him on Sunday during a round of golf as to whether he'd be here or not. I told him I didn't think he would. He's not. So, but I talked to him last night. He's doing very well. I'd also like to welcome Warner Webb back to us. We've missed you. Welcome back, and our sympathies on the loss of your son. And we hope everything goes well with your family going forward. Thank you for being here. A couple of special announcements. As always, please take a look at the DAC-DB calendar regularly to see about our upcoming meetings and social events. Today, there's this reminder that will be a club board meeting, quiet over there, a board meeting today. And I want to thank everyone who participated in Saturday's Buddy Walk down at the beach. We had a great time for a good cause. And I want to recognize Stephen Jones to come up and talk about the Buddy Walk and our dictionary project.
Afternoon. I just wanted to thank everyone who participated and or donated to the Buddy Walk and also the dictionary project. I think both of them were a real success. I just wanted to show everyone, I think this appeared in the year, but this was presented to Dinkins Grange and Lynn Bauman at Holiday Hill Elementary School for helping them with all their reading and grammar and spelling and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, again, thanks everyone who came out on Saturday. The Buddy Walk this year, I mean, obviously with the weather, I mean, anyone who had half a mind to come out to the beach to take a walk showed up. So they had, I think, probably a record event. I don't know for sure, but I know Debbie Rebels, who's the president, commented to me that she thought maybe they had 4,000 or 5,000 walkers out there, and raised. I'm pretty sure I don't know if they've officially reached their goal yet, but their goal is $400,000, and I'm pretty sure they're going to meet that. So again, thanks everyone who came out, and hopefully we'll be back there next year. So thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. It was my first time out there, and I was absolutely impressed with the turnout, the number of people walking up the beach for a really good cause. For those of you who have ventured out into the world lately, you'll see already that Christmas decorations are going up. You know, whatever happened to wait until after Thanksgiving. But anyway, so Christmas decorations going up make me want to remind everyone about the gingerbread house extravaganza setup. Ask that you put that on your calendars. It's November 16th from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. I believe. So we'll be having a lot more announcements about that. But if you can come out and help set up for that this year, it'd be great. Oratory update. I met with the board last month about the oratory project this year. We were having, I think, some issues abroad of a number of factors getting this thing started. So it was a sentiment of the board that we hold off having this, the oratory project next February. It was a combination of factors, but our goal is to go ahead and reconstitute the committee and start them working on the project for the late winter, early spring of 2024. We need a lot more cooperation from the schools, the sponsors of the schools, and just it was becoming a lot of work without a lot of progress. So, but we are committed to continuing that project. We're just going to go on a hiatus for this year. So that is an invitation to any of you who want to be on the committee going forward to help organize and pull this thing off a year from now. Just get with me and Leslie, and we'll get you going on that. Since Harlan's on the mend and Bill Traer's still up in North Carolina somewhere, again, we will put off the Paul Harris moment. I'm going to recognize Lisa Marie again for Happy Dollars today. You ready, Lisa Marie? Okay.
All right, so for our members, you know the drill. For our guests, this is a time that we share good things that are going on in our lives, and we ask for a donation. I'm going to kick things off with a $5 donation of Happy Dollars for several things. My husband and I celebrated 25 years of blissful marriage this year, and we're going to Napa finally, and I'm very, very excited. We leave on Saturday to head to Napa for the week, and I just couldn't be more thrilled to have that time with him. So a little bit of fun and just time together. So just wanted to share that with y'all. All right, who's next? Come on, I know you're happy about something. Come on, Barry, what you happy about? Hey,
I have seven.
should I sit?
About, what's his name, Ken Burns. I've left a message to tell him that I have some great ideas for a documentary about my surgery, that it should be 7 or 8 sessions or so. Strangely enough, I have not got a return call. Anyway, I'm vertical. My little rogue tumor that I had in my lung is gone. Post-op surgeon says, you're good to go, do anything. So I said, okay. Secondly, my grandson, one of my grandsons is here. He's stationed in the Army in Germany, and he and 4 members of his squad were entered into a competition that the Army says is going to be a big annual thing to select the best squad in the U.S. Army. And they won the competition for Europe and Africa. So Uncle Sam flew them to Fort Bragg to compete against 12 or 11 other teams. And they didn't make the Final Four, but they got to go to the Association of the U.S. Army conference in Washington, D.C., and met some generals and that kind of thing. So all is good with him. My granddaughter graduated from jump school. And she said she was going to, her intelligence analyst school out in Arizona, she said, I decided I'm going to go to jump school. And everybody in the family said, why? And her dad said, no, you cannot do that. You cannot jump out of a perfectly good airplane. And then he was reminded that she's an adult and she can make her own decisions. So anyway, successfully, put me down for 20, because I took your time.
Thank you, Barry, you gotcha.
So I'm putting in 20 for my guests that are all here, so I'm really glad to be here. I did get to miss a lot of the results because will keep me in good standing for the next 4 weeks.
Thank you, Odette. We'll give you the credit. All right. Camera. That's good. Ooh, high spenders today.
$20. I'm celebrating 7 years cancer-free. Oh, this is
Last song. I'm here. I'm here to celebrate Stephen Jones. If you don't know enough, watching what he does is a labor of love. I have the pleasure of watching him with his 2 beautiful sons, so celebrating him as a dad and what he does for Rotary.
I'll put it in 20 for Bernie and myself. We moved here in May. We had actually started our Rotary Club in Sammamish, Washington. I'm sure nobody's heard of it, outside of Seattle. And it was very hard to leave because those are all lifelong friends. And Ashley's on to visit next week. But we've been looking for a new Rotary Club and we found you guys. And we hope that people will come to them. Thank you.
Just because, I love just because. Those make me very happy. Anybody else?
I got more than that.
All right.
I'm putting in $5.
All right, Christina James. All right.
I had the opportunity to host 6 folks from Ukraine. They're here right now. They're starting the transplants in Ukraine, which one never thinks what it takes legally and everything else to have transplanted organs. But the really amazing thing is, as I stand there and get up in the morning and I'm sitting there, one of them comes in kind of down because they say they've taken out 30% of our electricity. And they've just arranged to have more missiles delivered by Iran. And all of a sudden, instead of being a headline, it becomes a real life thing. Some wonderful people that are determined this will not be their life. So anyway, I got to do this because Rotary made a contact on me. So if any of y'all are interested in these sorts of exchanges 1 week for you, let me know, because I find it incredible.
All right, thank you, Lisa Marie. One final matter. Warner.
I have not been to Rotary on a 50-something year rotation, and I haven't been there for several months because of the constellation of very difficult issues in my family. I just want to donate that because I'm just so glad to be back and on my friends to be out for so long.
All right, again, a quick reminder that if you wish to purchase Jaguar tickets for the 3 home games sponsored by District 6970, our club will receive a Polio Plus credit for all but $15 of each ticket purchased. 3 games are November 6th against the Raiders, November 27th against the Ravens, and January 8th against the Titans. And I will do no smack talk right now after last Sunday, but anyway, what I'd like to do now is to recognize past President Odette Stroyce to introduce our speaker today.
I'm so glad to be here. I mean, typically the senior team meets on a Tuesday, so I'm no blame. That's why I paid $20 to make sure I'm good for the next 4 weeks. Good, are we sharing? So Brad Talbert, how many Clemson fans in here? Yeah, it's orange, and he'll let you know that our hospitals change colors to orange as well. Nothing in that influence, but certainly has along the same vein. Since Brad has been the CEO of HCA Florida Memorial Hospital, he has led significant changes to many of our departments, but I'm going to leave that to him to cover. But before joining Memorial, Brad was CEO of a 288-bed Piedmont Medical Center in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It was a Tenet facility. During his 10 years with Tenet, his facilities were recognized with the Circle of Excellence Award, Tenet's highest honor 3 times. He was also named one of Charlotte's Business Journal's top 40 under 40 in 2015, and he was named a South Carolina Economic Ambassador by then Governor Nikki Haley, and also received the Regents Early Careerist Award from the South Carolina American College of Healthcare Executives chapter in 2014. Brad is very passionate about our community. He currently serves on the Executive Committee of the Board of Directors and is the chair-elect of the Jax Chamber. He serves as a member of the Jacksonville Civic Council and executive cabinet member of the American Heart Association. He's also on the Heart Walk Committee, the Executives with Heart Committee. He led that this year and was recently named to the local board. He also serves as a member of the University of North Florida's Dean's Council and is on the board of JAXPort. Brad was one of the first Ultimate CEOs, First Coast Ultimate CEOs, and named to the Florida 500 list of most influential business executives by Florida Trend magazine last year. Originally from South Carolina, he earned his bachelor's in finance at Wofford College, I have to say that right, Wofford College in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and his master's in health administration from the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston. I've worked for a lot of CEOs, a few. Got to say, I'm honored to work with Brad. He's very supportive, he's compassionate, he's a great leader, he's firm, but he's super fair. And he's a Clemson fan, so we've all got to become orange for him. And we are, the whole hospital's turned orange. Please join me in giving a very warm South Jacksonville Rotary welcome to Brad Talbert.
All right, thank you, Odette. I think my mother wrote that because that was a little bit over the top, but I'll always appreciate everything you do. And this is a great group. You know, I was excited to see some familiar faces in the crowd today. Of course, my friend Robert Harris, who was on the board at the hospital, I believe for 11 years, Robert. So we appreciate your past service. Thank you very much. And then, of course, Bill and his team who are doing some work for us right now. And of course, Lisa Marie, we enjoy having her students at Memorial and training the future nurses in our community. So appreciate everything that this club does. I am not a current Rotarian. I've been a member of 4 Rotary clubs across the country in my career, multiple Paul Harris Fellows and the like. So I love Rotary. I love everything that it stands for. Just with everything that Odette read that's going on in my life right now, I know that I don't have the time that I need to devote to being a dedicated Rotarian, because I believe we're still supposed to be here every week, right? At least try to, right? Unless you get a free pass, Odette, right? So is that right?
$20.
Yeah. So, well, listen, so the last time I was with this group, before I go into my presentation, I believe it was January of 2020. And I don't know if anybody was here that day, but I remember that day distinctly. We were still over at River City Brewing Company, and the world was a very different place in January of 2020. I remember at the end of the presentation, a presentation much like I'm going to share with you probably today, someone in the crowd asked me a question about this thing called COVID. Well, I got to tell you, in January of 2020, I don't think many of us really understood what COVID was. We hadn't had any in the United States at that time. That was kind of isolated to Asia. And the question was a great question. What do you think about COVID? Should we be worried about it? And all I can tell you is don't take me to Vegas, because my predictions were way off. I said, it's not, it's confined over in Asia, nothing for us to worry about here. Everybody's kind of paying attention, hadn't seen it. And of course, we know that was a much different story. I was talking to Lisa Marie before we started today, and I said,
I remember that story distinctly, and I also remember being at the Players. Many of you were probably out there when we canceled that tournament. And I remember being out there with Jared Rice, who runs the tournament. And a few days before the tournament started, there was a business after hours type event. I was talking to Jared, I said, man, are you worried about this COVID stuff? And he said, we got a few more hand alcohol dispensers placed around the course and whatever. So things change in a hurry, right? All of a sudden it took off, the NBA canceled the season, and then we canceled the tournament right there that week. So it's amazing to think about that time, not only in our lives, but in our society. And it was just a memory of mine, a lot of blurs through that time running a hospital during a pandemic, but I will always remember the South Jax Rotary Club for that, and for my I won't say Damas prediction that it wasn't going to be much. So anyway, with that, I'll go ahead and get started. I am Brad Talbert, the CEO of HCA Florida Memorial Hospital, and we always lead every meeting with our mission, vision, and values. And I want to start that with you today. Our mission is, above all else, we are committed to the care and improvement of human life, and our vision is to be an excellent place for employees to work, an excellent place for physicians to practice medicine, resulting in an excellent place for patients to receive care. And our values of ownership, compassion, and excellence. This is our current board of trustees. You may recognize some faces on this board. We have several Rotarians represented on this board, and a very diverse board that represents the interests of Jacksonville all over our community. So business, medical, education, just to point out a few. Go. Odette mentioned we changed our colors this year. Of course, Memorial Hospital has been around since 1969, and you may have recognized our Green Bay Packer colors of days gone by, the green and the yellow. We actually consolidated within our HCA family this year in Florida and created HCA Florida Healthcare, which is really to represent the strong bond that we have as a system, the largest health system in the state of Florida, 49 hospitals, and strong. And this is just a couple of snapshots of when we kind of made that switch back in March of this year. And there you can see, I won't go through all that, but you can see a map of where we're represented. So the largest health system in the state of Florida. Odette, a baby's born in an HCA Florida hospital every 17 minutes, right? We train more residents than any system in the state of Florida. And what's that?
She just the test.
Well, she passes with flying colors all the time, so I'm not worried about that. We train more residents than any system in the state of Florida. We provide more trauma care than any system in the state of Florida. And so our presence is strong. And in Jacksonville, we have two hospitals, HCA Florida Memorial over off University, and then our Orange Park facility in Clay County. We have 3 freestanding emergency departments on the east side of town. We have a proposed site down in St. Johns County and a proposed site in Nassau County that we're currently in development with. And then we have, there's our ERs, I'm sorry, we had some outpatient centers, the first slide. And then there's all of our ERs. We have 6 currently today, freestanding emergency departments around our community, with more planned in the near future. All right, key services at our hospital. Services much like you'll find in any strong community, large tertiary hospital in the country. Cardiovascular services, we offer literally every cardiovascular intervention in the country. Cardiac surgery, I'll talk about our 3-star rating in a minute. Structural heart, interventional, EP. And then we started an ECMO program back in the 4th quarter of last year, really a regional program that provides life-saving intervention at a very high acuity level for specific patients that can't really get that anywhere else in Jacksonville from a regional standpoint. There are a couple of hospitals that have one machine that they use for inpatients, but in terms of receiving patients, we're really the only hospital that receives patients in Jacksonville. Before that, patients were having to go to Orlando or Tampa for that care. A couple of other services I'll point out, obviously Trauma Center. Was just talking with President Charlie about an issue with his spouse. It was okay to share that. Y'all probably are aware. She's doing great, it sounds like, but she had to pay us a visit, unfortunately. and our trauma team took great care of her with her fall. But there are 2 trauma centers in Duval County, our hospital, and then of course, University of Florida. We treat 4 out of every 10 trauma patients in Jacksonville, in Duval County, at Memorial Hospital. We have a very strong mental wellness center with both adult and geriatric services, inpatient services. One of the largest robotic surgery centers in Jacksonville. We performed over 1,000 robotic surgeries last year, or close to 1,000 robotic surgeries last year in multiple specialties. Orthopedics, I'll speak about that service line in just a minute too. And then of course, we still deliver a lot of babies. Emergency room, everybody always likes to ask about the ER that, Charlie, that it was an ER, right?
Yes.
It's a busy one.
Ambulance and everything.
Ambulance and everything, yeah. So about 90,000 ER visits last year in total. And when you add all that up, we admitted about 21,000 people last year. And total hospital patients treated, about 125,000 people in Jacksonville received care from our facility or one of our facilities in the last year. Mentioned our trauma team right there. So almost 2,000 trauma patients treated in 2021. We have patients fly in from all over the North Florida area for care, primarily in Duval, Clay, St. John's, obviously, but we have patients from all over really that come in. There's Jacksonville Sheriff's Officer Jack Adams, who's a trauma survivor, really very fortunate to have his life back, lost his wife in a tragic accident that he was in. He survived, and we actually recognized him at the recent Jags game. Travis Etienne is our brand ambassador. We couldn't afford Trevor, but we could afford Travis. So, just kidding, sort of. No, as a Clemson fan, you know, Travis is near and dear to my heart, and we were excited that he was willing to help us out, kind of get the word out about our hospital. And so part of that deal is that we get to bring some survivors to the games, and they get to spend some time on the sideline. It's really cool outreach. So Jack did that recently. Robotic surgery, so 939. So last year, bariatrics, colorectal, general orthopedic, and urology. So we really cover the gamut there. We also are starting to do some neurosurgery cases robotically as well. So really anything in the surgical space these days is migrating to robotic intervention. It's less pain, it's minimally invasive, more minimally invasive than laparoscopic. It's safer, it's more, kind of the parameters get smaller with regards to potential mistakes and things like that. So it's obviously much better for the patient, for outcomes, and for the overall experience. Bariatrics, okay. We perform a lot of bariatric surgeries at Memorial Hospital. Okay, this is a wonderful couple that you can see the before in the middle, the afterwards, and they kind of went together through their journey. We do a fashion show every year where we have some of our success stories come back and show off their new bodies with some good clothes. So it's always a fun time. But we provide every modality that's available in the market today, and in 21, 352 surgeries. I mentioned our cardiology program earlier. One call out here is we have the highest rating in the nation in cardiovascular surgery, which is a 3-star program. So that means that our mortalities are low, our outcomes are really, really solid, and we stack up as one of the best programs in the country. And we continue to invest in our technological upgrades there. We just spent about $11 million in new EP labs and new cath labs. Orthopedics. I want to call attention to the fact that we recently became the first hospital in Jacksonville and one of 7 in the state of Florida to be advanced certified in total hip and total knee replacement in the country. And so Joint Commission awards that certification, and it's a very rigorous under the hood type of assessment. It includes not only the services we provide at the hospital, but our physicians. I met someone who's going to be with Dr. Duffy, who's in the picture there, who was kind of our leader on that. Dr. Duffy practices in our hospital, among several other orthopedic surgeons, who's also a Rotarian, Deerwood Rotary member, Gavin Duffy. But very proud of that program and delivering great outcomes to our community. Imaging, we just actually celebrated our 1-year anniversary in our Women's Center out at Atlantic and Kernan, where we provide a real spa-like atmosphere and high-level, high-touch experience for women in our community. It's a beautiful facility. They offer breast care, mammograms, ultrasounds, bone density. We have a wonderful OBGYN office there as well. And so we just had a 1-year celebration this past weekend. It was well attended. Another event Odette really put together. So she does a lot of great work for us, as I know she does for your club. Community involvement. So I'll save you without reading all of the organizations on here, other than I'll point out the South Jacksonville Rotary Club is on this list. We do a lot with our community. 3 years in a row, we've been named the top corporate philanthropist in Jacksonville. So we're the top corporation in Jacksonville donating and giving back. We pay taxes. That's a big distinction between our system and others in Jacksonville. We're the only hospital system that pays taxes. We pay lots of them, 36.7 million last year in state and federal income tax. We also provided about $30 million of uncompensated care last year. And we do all of that while also partnering with local community groups to continue to give back in many different ways. Just last month, we actually cut the ribbon on a new simulation center. It's called the HCA Healthcare Center for Clinical Advancement at the University of North Florida, which is actually on the FSCJ campus over off Old Bay Meadows Road. But this is a full service simulation hospital. And what's cool about this is that it allows students to get real world training as close to real world as you can get and still make some mistakes, all right? Because students are going to make mistakes. And so this allows the level of complexity with these mannequins and these mock patients and whatnot is really, it's phenomenal. You can actually program these patients to react in any condition you want. You can even, if you administer the wrong medication to one of these mannequins, it will react as if you gave them the wrong stuff. It's really remarkable, the level of technology involved now and how we're able to further the training of our students these days. But big investment there, and we're excited about the future as we continue to invest in the future of nursing. And actually a little bit more on this, especially with Lisa Marie being in the room, I want to touch on this. I know that President Charlie told me you guys have had a few other health systems in the last few weeks come and pay you guys a visit. So I'm sure you probably heard this already, but we, just like you probably do in your own industries, we have some staffing challenges in the healthcare industry these days, particularly in Jacksonville, right? So Jacksonville is a growing community. I'm gonna put my chamber hat on for a minute. We have 100 people a day moving to Northeast Florida, all right? 100 people a day. I had a meeting this morning with a developer that's building a project up in Nassau County, 3,200 home sites, and 40%, they've built 400 houses so far. 40% of the residents that have bought property there are from out of state. That's who's moving here, okay? And so that's going to continue. So cost of living is still very affordable compared to other parts of the country. Of course, no taxes. It's a free lifestyle. We know Florida, regardless of your position on all that stuff, Florida kind of benefited during the pandemic with folks that wanted a different way of life. So that's not going to slow down. The market may soften a little bit, but that's not going to slow down. So what does that mean for healthcare? That means that more people are going to move to this area and need to consume healthcare resources, all right? So we've got a lot of healthcare in this community. This community does not take a backseat to any other community in the country in healthcare options that are available today. We have some of the finest healthcare in the country right here in Jacksonville. And so that is something we all should feel blessed for and be proud of when you talk about the community that you live in. But that creates challenges for us. So today, there are about 1,000 nurse vacancies in Jacksonville today to fill the open positions today, just to kind of get us back to a baseline. And then there's $2.7 billion of capital expenditures that are either in flight or have been publicly announced in the healthcare space in Jacksonville over the last couple of years. $2.7 billion. What does that mean? That means new hospitals, new bed towers, new ERs, new outpatient facilities, new physician offices. Nurses are going to be needed. All right. So that's going to continue to increase that demand. Our legislature was good to us this past year. They put some monies into furthering nursing education. We're thankful for that. University of North Florida, I just remember their numbers. The president was telling me they're going to expand their program by 80%. Okay, their current nursing program by 80%. The challenge is that's great. The challenge is those nurses are not going to hit our hospital floors and my competitor hospital floors until probably 25 or 26 at the earliest. Okay, so it's going to be a tight couple of years. And, it's just the way it goes. And I'm sure each one of you in your industries could speak similarly about the challenges with labor and finding the right amount of labor and what it's cost you to pay for that labor now, because our labor numbers have gone through the roof. So my CFO's here, he's, grinning or crying, one of the two. Anyway. This is our, I saw the Boy Scouts were having a meeting here when I walked in. This is our Boy Scout badge page here. So I mentioned a couple of certifications. I won't read all this off, but we're certified and validated by many third-party organizations throughout the country that do this kind of thing to really validate the care that we provide. We have excellent care at our hospital, A-rated Leapfrog Hospital for the 5th or 6th consecutive time. On top 5% in the country in patient safety by health grade. So a couple of things there, but we believe in bringing folks in and looking under the hood. If there's opportunities for us to learn and do something better to improve the outcomes for our patients, we're going to do that, because ultimately at the end of the day, that's how we're judged. It's not just was the food hot or was the room clean, but we want to make sure you're safe too. Right? Well, there's Travis. He was hiding in the presentation. I told you about him, but there he is right there with another one of our trauma survivors. And he's a great kid. I'll tell you, he looked good the other day too. We need to get him the ball more. I think that's my coaching for Doug Peterson. So, anyway. And then of course, join us out there on the World Wide Web if you need any answers or have any questions. So, all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, yes, we'll start over here and go around. Yes, sir.
I saw a couple Southwest Florida hospitals on your map. How did they fare during the storm?
Yeah.
Are there any lessons they learned or you might go system-wide with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking. We had 2 hospitals that were in harm's way in the storm. It was an interesting storm because if you remember, 2 days before it hit, it was hitting the Panhandle. And then 1 day before it hit, it was hitting Crystal River. And then, or Tampa, and everybody was freaking out about Tampa, rightfully so. But then it at the last minute kind of turned and it hit Fort Charlotte and Fort Myers and Naples. So we actually evacuated several hospitals in Tampa in anticipation of it hitting there. It ended up going further south than we thought, and it took out some of our hospitals here as it did everything else. So we had 2 hospitals in harm's way, Inglewood and Fawcett in Fort Charlotte. Inglewood, really, the hospital itself was okay. But everything around it was devastated. All right. So that was more of an issue of, they lost power and all those things, and generator, but not being able to get egress to the facility was the main problem there. That was quickly resolved. Fawcett was a different story. Fawcett, and these, you can go out and read about this, the roof came off the hospital. So it was almost like if you remember those old sardine cans when it just kind of came right off. And that was a problem. So within 24 hours, our teams evacuated, I think it was about 140, 150 patients out of that hospital and got them to safety. And everybody was fine, but it was devastating there. That facility is still not open for inpatients. They have started back, of course, ER, they've started back outpatient surgeries and some of the outpatient ancillary services, but lessons learned. One of the good things about, there are many good things about our company. One of the things is we have one of the most advanced emergency preparedness centers in the country. I would say that it rivals anything in Washington, which you might say is good or bad. But in reality, we have the most sophisticated technology available in the market today. Literally within 12 hours, we had teams flown in to Southwest Florida, hopped on a helicopter, landed at the hospital, evacuating folks. We're bringing in diesel trucks for our employees and getting our patients to where they need to be and providing resources and food and supplies and whatever for all of our staff and their families and whatnot. So really lessons would be it's these things are not they don't go where they say they're going to go initially. Seems like we used to be better at this, because I remember storms say they go here and they went pretty much there, but now they're all over the place. And those that come from the north or from the south to the north are tough to predict for Florida. So I think that our team responded well. I think if you asked anyone down in that part of the state, they would tell you the same thing. Natural disasters are part of life, and running hospitals during natural disasters or pandemics or anything like that, it's always a challenge. So, yes, sir.
Just curious, because of the size of the medical community as a whole in Northeast Florida, taking into account some of the other major medical groups that are here, such as yourselves, with all the people that are coming into North Florida, do you hear either anecdotally or statistically that quality medical care is a big deal with people moving in here?
Sure. Yes, sir. And I'll tell you this. So as I mentioned, the chair-elect of the chamber board, I also served 2 years as the chair of Southjax-USA, which is the economic development arm of the chamber, whose sole focus really is bringing in new companies from out of state and out of the area to our 6-county Northeast Florida region. And so one of the main things that all of those companies look for is access to healthcare and quality of healthcare, because they want that for their employees. That's healthcare, cost of living, schools, quality of life, kind of all wraps up into that quality of life arena. So absolutely, I think it is a huge feather in our cap in Jacksonville to have the amount and the level and the talent of healthcare, the quality of care that we have here in Jacksonville. It really is unparalleled. I mean, you put us up against any city in the country, you can get everything you need right here. We have a lot of people coming from outside the area to Jacksonville to get what they need. Yes, sir.
This might be a complex question to answer, but there's no question access and quality are being met. What sort of drivers are driving what costs most significant, aside from inflation?
Yeah, sure. Well, inflation is there, right? It's there with everything that we do. Particularly if you kind of go to the micro level of how it's affected healthcare in Jacksonville, it's put significant pressure on the labor wage market here. I mean, our nurses in our ICU, Kevin, nurse today versus a year ago is probably up 20 to 22%, doing the same job.
Just because that many nurses retired?
COVID took a toll on nurses, all right, and across the country. I'm not talking, some, dealt with the pandemic themselves and personal, involvement there and whatnot. But I'm really talking about those that just said, you know what, it's not worth it. They've reevaluated their life. These are really tough jobs. I mean, so are teachers, so are firefighters, so are police. I mean, you can go down the list of service industry, folks, and it's tough to be a nurse. Okay, it absolutely is. It's a gift to be a nurse. We should think. Several of you probably are related to nurses or have nurses in your family. You should hug them and thank them for what they do, because they make a difference every day, and it's really an unheralded difference, in my opinion. So a lot of them said, hey, I'm getting out of this. Certainly maybe move away from the bedside, high stress. I've seen enough. I'm going to go work in an office, or I'm going to go work in a 9-to-5 type deal, a call center, something like that. Or they've left the industry altogether and moved to finance or transportation and logistics jobs. We've seen a lot of shift there. So that's created some of that pressure. We're not putting out new nurses fast enough. I mean, we're putting them out fast. We're not putting enough of them out fast enough to meet the demand. In terms of cost, there's a lot of things. Supply chain, that is incredibly costly for us, just like it is for everybody else. When the cost of gas goes up, the cost of medical supply goes up. Medical device manufacturers, pharmaceutical manufacturers, they do great work. They come up with great interventions that help our lives, that get us back quicker. I know we were talking about a knee operation. 2-3 years ago, you had to be in the hospital for 2 to 3 days after a knee operation. Now they're going to be done, or they're being done outpatient. You go home same day, unless you have some real significant complications that may require an overnight stay or something like that.
Does that mean that that sort of surgery is more cost effective?
If you can stay out of the hospital, it ultimately will be, but the implant itself is not. So those prices continue to go up because you got to invest in R&D, right? You look at the pharmaceutical industry, you got to invest in R&D, but those medications are incredibly costly. And we're putting a new MRI in. Tammy, what's new MRI cost? $1.8 million for MRI. And if you come to our ER, I got to take care of you whether you can pay the bill or not. Okay.
I was curious if it was labor, uncompensated, I guess, care.
It all weighs in, and we continue to see COVID. We kind of saw a decompression of uncompensated care because it was an interesting phenomenon, because the COVID, if a patient had COVID, the federal government would cover that cost of an uninsured patient at a Medicare rate, but only for that COVID diagnosis. It's kind of one of those weird one-offs. So we actually saw some decompression in uninsured, patients in the hospital for a brief period of time. Those have returned. And I don't know whether it was just folks that weren't out and about, they weren't in the community as much, everybody's wearing masks, so they're not catching other bugs, as well, or what it was. But we've seen that kind of stabilization or normalization, I should say, back to kind of where we were pre-COVID. So for us and everything we look at now in our business, it's really about, well, how do we compare to 19? Because 20 and 21 are so weird, with our world that you got to kind of say, well, how did we look pre-COVID to today, and kind of balance all that. So it is a complex question, and I could spend an hour on it, still not answer everything. Yes, sir.
I've got a question you may have been asked before, but there's this VQ thing running around there. What do you think, whether the VQ variant is going to affect us much this winter? What you might enjoy it.
I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I've learned to not comment on those kind of topics. So I'm going to defer that to my infectious disease expert who could be with us today. So thank
You know a lot about Rotary, and you know what the four-way test is. So this is a coin, the four-way test. So keep it with you as a reminder that when your life gets simpler, come back to Rotary.
Amen. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Obviously, he's a man that doesn't predict epidemiology, and I shouldn't predict Jaguar games. So anyway, just a reminder, next week is our annual Florida, Florida luncheon with the Mandarin Club. Our speaker will be Greg McGarity, who is presently the Gator Bowl Association. Y'all may remember when he was with us over in River City, or no, it was at Baptist, I think it was. But he has a unique perspective on this game as having been the athletic director for both schools. So if you are so inclined and you're a true follower, please remember to wear your school colors that day. One final reminder, there's a board meeting to follow today. And as we end our meeting, if you please stand and please join me in the four-way test of the things that we think, say, or do. First,
Is it the truth?
Second,
Is it fair to all concerned?
third,
Will it build goodwill and better friendships?
fourth,
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you.